New, simple, and easy bee farm for Minecraft Bedrock Edition. This new design is super cheap, easy to build, lossless, and works for honey and honeycomb. It has a built-in auto crafter to make honey blocks for you. It automatically recycles all the empty bottles for you, so you never need to touch them, and it just works better than most other bee farm concepts on Bedrock Edition. This farm relies on the Bedrock exclusive feature where you can push the bee nests and beehives using a piston, and then we're just pushing them around in a big circle. Whenever they get in front of our dispenser, we can either harvest them for honeycomb, or if we put some bottles in there, then we would get honey bottles and turn those into honey blocks auto-magically. So this is basically the entire farm right here. It's basically just a big circle of beehives. It actually kind of looks like a pair of pants. So how this farm works is when it's during the day, it's going to automatically turn on and cycle around the entire build, as you can see here. To make that a little bit more clear for you, let's put a block in there, and then we're just going to watch this thing run for a second, and then that'll give you the idea of how exactly the system works. So as you can see, every few minutes, all the beehives are going to make their way all the way around the farm, and then on this edge of the farm over here is where we actually harvest all of the honey and honeycomb. So as you can see, the farm is actively running right now, and it's harvesting every single one of our beehives and giving us a bunch of honey bottles. It is then going to be auto-crafting those down into honey blocks for us, as you can see there. And if we want to, we can simply toggle this over, and now it's going to be harvesting honeycomb for us, and all of that just goes straight down into the chest, and it's actually a lossless design, so you're never going to have honeycomb like shooting out the side like with some other designs. Also, we have an optional daylight detector right here. That way, when it becomes nighttime, the farm automatically turns off because, of course, the bees don't work during the night. So if you take a look at some of my previous honey farm designs for Bedrock Edition, you can see that they're not very dense at all. We have 4 beehives per like 5 block long area. We got a whole lot of redstone for all of that, and even then honeycomb still glitches out the back, so you need like a whole extra system just to collect it. Overall, it's a pretty expensive. It takes up a pretty large amount of area for the amount of bees that you get. I've done full breakdowns of like all the different types of honey farm concepts for Bedrock Edition in previous videos, but essentially the one that I'm showing you how to build today is one of the simplest and cheapest ways to go. Otherwise, you're going to be activating and detecting from every single individual beehive in your farm, and all of those different concepts come with various different downsides. Now, the neat thing about this farm is that you can actually expand it to be any size that you want just by using some slime block piston extenders, but that's more for the advanced user, and you probably don't want that many bees anyway. Now, also try turning this into a vertical farm, which does actually get very compact, and it's even cheaper if you want to do it that way. However, the bees don't really like to go back into their hives if you do it this way, so it's best to keep them horizontal. So the actual beehive part of the farm is literally just a piston feed tape. However, there is this right here. This is the brain of the system. So of course we have the actual honeycomb part of the farm right here. This is quite literally just a dispenser right back there with some shears. Now on the left side, this is where things start to look a little bit complicated. I assure you this is actually pretty easy to build. So let's go through how the honey side of this farm actually works. So we have the observer detecting when all these beehives get pushed around, because of course this is just part of the feed tape right here. We have a single dispenser. This needs at least 8.5 stacks of bottles in it. That way when it harvests some honey from the system, it actually gets shot out the front and collected instead of stored inside of the dispenser. Now other designs will have like 1 dispenser per beehive in your farm, and each one of those needs 9 stacks of bottles. So this is actually really cheap on bottles. Now when this thing activates, it's either going to shoot out a bottle which will get collected, or it'll shoot out a honey bottle. That's going to go down right here, and it's either going to get filtered out. All of your honey bottles are going to go through this item filter and go into your auto crafter, and then that's going to shoot out not only the honey block, but it's also going to shoot out the 4 bottles as well. So the honey block will go down to your storage. Boom, perfect. All of your honey bottles are actually going to get recycled automatically. So we have another item filter and an item elevator, and those go right back up to the beginning, and you never need to touch them. It is fully automatic. Now, if you have some bottles that come in through the system right here, well, they go through the same route, but they go right back into this chest right here, and guess what? They get recycled back up to the top, and you never need to touch them. But once you set it up and build it, you never need to touch it. Like, it can't break. Now, if you leave the area or unload your game or something like that, I would recommend still turning off the build, because it's always a good idea to turn off your redstone before leaving the area. Otherwise, things might break, and you might need to come in here and, like, press a button on a piston or something like that, but you shouldn't have to. Hey, if you enjoy these types of Bedrock Edition tutorials, then make sure to subscribe and share around the video to help grow the channel. We're almost at 700,000 subscribers. Thank you very much, and let's hop into the tutorial. So the materials that you're going to need for this build is everything in this chest right here. That includes either a stack of cherry leaves, or you can use the azalea leaves with the flowers on them. So this is the build area. It's going to be a total of 16 blocks wide. It is 15 blocks long. It is going to be 5 blocks above the ground, and then it's going to be 1 to 7 blocks below the ground. The only area where it actually goes down is in the back over here. This is for the brain. Now, you don't technically need to chunk align this. However, it's always a good idea to chunk align, especially because we're having a bunch of pistons pushing blocks around. If you don't know how to find chunk borders, you can check out my video linked down in the description. So our beehives and everything are going to be facing this direction towards me. So the bees will be going out of their beehives on the front right here. However, the actual front of the build where you're going to be interacting with the lever and all that stuff is right here. And this is where your on-off switch is going to be. So the white area is the central area where the bees are actually going to be, and then the gray area on the outside is where your wall is going to go to actually contain your bees, and also where some redstone will be. So to start building, you want to grab yourself some temporary blocks. Do not start building with your beehives and stuff because bees are going to escape, but it's going to be a horrible tragedy. So start in the back right of your build. We need a line of 12 blocks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And that should leave you with a 1 block gap right here. And then it's 2. We're going to double back right here. And this line is going to be going basically all the way across. So once you get to this point, we're actually going to skip that one, go 2, skip the corner, and then just keep on doubling this back until we get to the edge of the build so that it looks a little bit something like that. And boom, and now we got some copper pants. And now it's time to install the redstone for the piston feed tape. So we're going to start at this upper right corner right here. We need in ourselves a regular piston that's going to be pushing these blocks across. We're going to mine down a block right here and place in an observer facing towards that block. Now we need to place in a sticky piston above it like this right here. You can remove that block. And now we're going to place in our optional daylight detector and make sure this is on nighttime mode so it is blue. And now put a solid block behind that observer and 1 piece of redstone right here to actually power that piston. Your manual on-off switch can go anywhere on that piston. And then if we flick that down, the farm will be turned off. And if we flick that up, as you can see, it's going to power our piston and push our next block over to here. To install the redstone for this corner, we're simply going to break out this block real quick, remove this one, and now we need an upside down stair right here. So this should be facing with the opening right there, as you can see. And now we're going to place in ourselves a redstone torch on this side and a redstone dust above it, regular block right there, and then a regular piston facing forwards. Turn around, and then we need a 4-tick repeater going into a block, and then another piston right there to the side, and a wall down in front of it to keep your bees out of that area. So that is basically what your redstone should look like on that corner. Now, if we place a block in right here, as you see, it's going to get pushed across and then push our block down to there. However, this redstone for the corner right here is actually identical to the one over there. So we're just going to go ahead and install this corner real quick as well. So break out these 2 blocks right here, put in your upside down stair, your redstone torch, redstone dust, regular block, piston facing forwards, turn around, 4-tick repeater, regular block, piston, and then your wall in the ground. And as you can see, both of those are identical. So this corner right here is actually the same as those 2 that we just built, but it's mirrored. So we're going to go ahead and break out this block right here, break out these 2 blocks in the ground. We need an upside down stair right there so that we can place on the redstone torch, redstone dust, regular block, normal piston, turn around. We got a 4-tick repeater going into a block, and then a piston facing to the side with a wall down below it. So now if we go ahead and put back in our temporary block, we should see that get pushed across all the way to the corner right here. Now this one is also really easy, so we're going to go ahead and have an observer facing this block right here, solid block behind it, redstone dust, and then a regular piston facing forwards right there. And now you're going to need to actually put a button on this thing to power it because, of course, the block is right there. It hasn't updated the observer, but as soon as you press that, that is going to restart your entire piston feed tape, and everything should just be working, as you can see here. So to turn this thing off, just go ahead and flick your lever. So now we're going to install the core redstone on this side of the build over here. Now, technically, this is just like a 6-wide area. However, it's actually going to be coming back behind the build. Now, I would recommend that that you mine out, like, basically this entire zone. That way you actually have some room to work with and, you know, install a ladder or anything like that. Now, this is going to be going downwards by 7 blocks, so this is already 1 block, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this is about the size area that I would mine out, and then, of course, you're going to have to push this back underneath the actual build itself. Now, we'll get to that in a second, but we're going to start up at the top right here, and as you can see, this is where our little beginner platform was. So it is 3 beehives in from the left right here. Now, we're going to break out this block and place in a dispenser. This is going to be for our honey bottles, and then we're going to break out this block right here and put in another dispenser. This one is going to give us honeycomb. So we can go ahead and put those back temporarily. Now, in front of these, we're going to place in 3 hoppers. So this middle one is going to be pointing into the block to the side right there. Crouch, we need another hopper pointing into that one, and right there, and then the same thing on this side. This middle one is facing towards that dropper. Crouch, so it's facing into either side of them, just like so, and that is our extra item collection, because sometimes the items fly out the front. So remove this line of temporary blocks that we have right here, and the line of blocks down below it. We're also going to remove this line of temporary blocks that we have on the back side. Now go back behind these guys. We're going to place in a solid block directly beneath that dispenser right there, and then a double chest on this side. So now place a hopper going into that double chest right there. You want a rail on top of it. If it's not facing sideways like that, you might need another block and another rail to redirect it. But either way, just place in your rail, hopper minecart, and then we're going to have a couple pieces of glass to either side. We're going to do the same thing on this side over here, of course, and that is going to pick up any items. So now you can go ahead and put back your temporary blocks. While you're back here, you should also go ahead and replace all these solid blocks with some glass, so that way you can actually see in there. Make sure that your minecarts haven't disappeared or something. Speaking of item physics, we need another row of glass right here, because that honeycomb is just incredibly buggy. It'll go anywhere if you let it. So we're going to place in an observer facing this block right here and another observer facing that one. That's going to be powering your honey bottle factory. And then we're going to have an optional redstone lamp right here with a lever on it. That'll be the on-off switch for the build. And then just a couple of solid blocks right here and 3 redstone dust. You also want a hopper on top of that dispenser and behind that one. And then you can put in yourself a double chest right here for shears. Now you also need to fill in these blocks right here and these ones as well. Again, just for those item physics. So now to install the core redstone, this is actually going to be really easy for you. We're going to start off right in front of this hopper, which was pointing into the solid block right here. Now, I'm going to use a decorated pot right here simply because this is the cheapest filler item that you can put right there, but you can easily just use like a hopper or a dropper right there or something. It doesn't really matter, but either way, we're going to have a hopper facing downwards right here. That's going to be going into a double chest underneath it if you can place it. This is going to be kind of like a temporary storage chest, and now underneath this, you need to have in yourselves a couple of temporary blocks right here. 2 hoppers facing backwards into those blocks, as you can see there. We need a couple more temporary blocks on the front right here, and 2 hoppers facing forwards into these blocks. Go ahead and remove all of these. So this chest right here is going to be the output of honey blocks for your build. And then of course you can send that off to your storage system or whatever you want to do. And now we're going to install the dropper elevator right here. So make sure that you're using droppers right here, otherwise it won't work. You need a total of 6 of these droppers. They're also facing straight upwards, and remove that glass block. That's going to go right up into this hopper right here, and it's going to go and recycle all of your glass bottles. So to build up these lower item filters, it's really easy. We're going to go behind these 2 bottom hoppers right here. Place in yourself a piece of obsidian right here, and then a solid block. You want a piston facing this direction right here, if you can place it in there, and then another one on that side. You also need a couple of solid blocks behind all of these, just like so. 2 more solid blocks right here. We're going to have some comparators right here reading from the upper hoppers. Now place in 4 pieces of redstone dust on the floor right here. 2 solid blocks in front of those comparators. Now you need a redstone torch off the side of that piston with a solid block above it. And then do the same thing on this side right here. As you can see, that is going to lock both of our lower hoppers. And now we can configure these item filters. So this one right here on the left, lined up with your elevator, is going to be for bottles. I'm going to put 3 empty bottles in there. And then it's going to be 16 standard filler items, and then 1 in every other slot. And then we're going to do the same thing for this side right here. So it's going to be 3 honey blocks, and then it's going to be 16 filler items in the first slot and 3 in the other ones. This is not the standard item filter like setup. It's not 41, 1, 1, 1, and that's because these items should never back up. However, if you get more than like a double chest of honey in here, then this system could back up and potentially break. So just, you know, send off your items to your storage system. So now we're going to install the auto crafter. So we're going to place in a temporary block right here, and then an auto crafter facing into this chest right here, and then go to the side of it, and we're going to place in a hopper facing into the side of it, as you can see. While we're here, we also need a hopper facing towards the back of the build, just like that. So now we're going to place a comparator behind that auto crafter on subtract mode, so the little light is turned on. We need a saw block up in front of it, and then a couple slabs to the side right here, and a saw block next to your crafter itself. Piece of redstone dust goes right there, and then a repeater on 1 tick to actually power that guy. And now's where we get fancy. We're going to place in a furnace right here, turn around and place in yourself a comparator reading from that furnace. In this furnace, you need to put in yourself a wooden shovel or just some other non-stackable item, and then 32 items in the top of it that are not smeltable. That way this thing doesn't just like smelt down your thing. And now inside of this crafter, just go ahead and turn off a bunch of the slots. That way you are left with a 2x2 of slots available. So if you put 3 honey bottles in here, it's not going to auto craft, but as soon as it gets that 4th one in there, boom, it will go ahead and auto craft. And then you're not going to see anything in this chest right here because your item filters should have worked. Your honey blocks should be down in here, and then your bottles should be down in this lower dropper right here as well. So go back up to the top. We need to place in yourself a solid block right here. We need a solid block next to that comparator. We need another one up right here, one down right there, and then another one down for this general shape. It's kind of annoying to build, but this is what it should look like. You need a comparator right here, 2 pieces of redstone dust just stair-stepping down so it runs into the back of the furnace right there, and then a redstone torch on the side of that furnace to act as your item filter. To configure this item filter, you want to go ahead and put yourself 3 honey bottles in there, and then you need 6 items in the front slot, and then it's 1, 1, and 1. The final thing to do down here is to grab yourself a redstone torch right there, and then we're just going to stack this up with a basic torch tower going all the way up, and make sure you have a solid block at the top layer of it. Now this item elevator is actually going to activate every time that a bottle goes through your item filter right here, so we don't need any additional circuitry for it. Just make sure to take any extra empty bottles that you have out of the bottom. So go up to the top here, and you want to put yourself a bunch of shears either into your dispenser or into your chest, and then you want to go ahead and put like 8.5 stacks of bottles into this dispenser right here. You can do a full 9 stacks if you really want to. So now I'd recommend testing the system, and you want to get yourself a few honey bottles and some regular bottles to do this. So we're just going to throw some regular bottles into either these hoppers or on top of there, and we should see those come down, and then you're going to see your redstone activate, and then all those bottles should come back up to the surface. Of course, I filled up my dispenser, so they are going to be stuck in this hopper right here. If we throw some honey bottles in there, we should see this thing also work. As you can see, this item filter is now pulsing. As you can see, it auto-crafted, our bottles got taken out, and now we have more honey blocks in the system. You can easily add more storage to this thing just by adding in another hopper right there, going off to your storage system or another double chest. So that's the complicated part of the build done, and now we need to build up the exterior of this thing. So we need to install a full perimeter of either cherry leaves or flowering azalea leaves. They're basically identical in every way, so use either one. We're going to start at our little brain over here and start by placing in a block right there, and then we're going to leave a couple gaps right here, right above, you know, this and this for item physics, of course. And now we're going to loop this around the corner. Now we need to leave a little bit of room over here for the bees to actually escape the little area, because they can sometimes pop out of the hive right there. It's also why we have the wall down there. Now on this side, we're just going to bring it across, and then over here, we're just going to bring it around the corner like this. So it should look a little bit something like this right here. And now we're going to loop this around to the right side of the build. So we needed 3 more leaves right here. Go ahead and get yourself a line of leaves, and then a 2x3 right here to cover up that whole zone. Going to bring this out to this edge. We're going to go ahead and put in ourselves a little bit of a glass wall right there. Again, because these guys can get stuck. We also need to put in a wall right there as well. And now place in yourself a glass block there, leaf there, and then just connect this up with glass blocks and leaves going to the other edge. And that is our entire outer perimeter. They should not be able to escape from anywhere with those 2 layers built up. So now we need to put some leaves over these middle bars right here, and this is actually fairly easy. We're going to leave a 1 block gap on that edge right there, again, just so they can kind of escape that little zone over there. Now, this is going to be a full bar of leaves, and then again, no leaf right there, and just bring this all the way across to the edge, and leave no leaf right there. That way they can get out. Now, I'd recommend that you leave a 2-block gap above these leaves right here before you get to your roof. That way you can actually walk in here and traverse a lot easier. So this should be your roof layer, and now you're just going to go around the entire outside edge of this thing, build up this with 2 layers of glass or solid blocks or really whatever you want to do. It's a little bit hard to see, but this is generally what your wall should look like once you have it installed. And now just grab a bunch of glass, and we're going to put a full roof over top of this thing. Make sure that you have every single block in the roof and the walls installed, otherwise your bees are going to get absolutely everywhere. They will find the one exit from this place, I promise you. Now, if you want an actual door to get in there, I'd recommend doing it on the front right here. So just turn around, get yourself a door there and a door there. Only ever open one of these doors at a time. That way, no bees can ever escape. And if you're trying to leave this place, never hold a flower because you'll just like attract all of them, of course. So let's talk bees. To start yourself off, you're probably going to want to just find yourself a naturally generated bee nest somewhere in the world. Now, you do not need a campfire underneath these things to actually pick them up, but you will need a silk touch tool. Even a silk touch pickaxe will work. You can just go ahead and break that and see none of these guys care. Now, I'd recommend that you set up yourself just like a little area somewhere outside where you can go ahead and line up a bunch of these, put campfires underneath them. If you put a button on top of them, that'll stop the smoke. So give these guys a bunch of flowers and just get a bunch of busy little bees going. Now, ideally, you want to get like 3 bees per beehive. However, our farm is going to have a couple of empty nests or hives in it. That way, they more easily go into their hives at night. Because these guys do not remember their home hive. They just kind of go into whichever one they want, whichever one has room, and that results in inefficiencies. So our farm is going to have like 75% full hives and like 25% or so empties. And now that you have a bunch of beehives, it is time to actually fill in this place. So you want to go around every single one of your temporary blocks and replace every single one of those with a beehive in it. Now you want all of these to be facing forwards, so don't turn around and have some facing like that because it's not really going to work. You want absolutely all of them to be facing the same direction. This farm is optimized so that a majority of them are actually able to get out of their hives at any given time. Of course, on the corners, these ones are going to be facing into a block, so they won't be able to escape. But generally, it's not too big of a deal. So all these ones have 2 to 3 bees in them. Now, the rest of these I'm going to put in with some empty beehives right here. Again, just to make sure these guys actually go home. For this final right side right here, it's probably easiest to replace these from the outside edge. Now, it's very important that you do not move those hives as you're placing them in, and you do not want to be in that room when you first start moving those hives. I think it's kind of a bug, but I had absolutely all of these guys aggro on me at one point when I actually turned this thing on in survival mode at one point. But as you see, if we go ahead and we turn on the farm, then this thing is going to start harvesting all the honey over here, as you can see, and your farm is now complete and ready to go. If you enjoyed this Bedrock tutorial, then drop a like, share around the video, and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.